love riding my bike. I love running. I don't care what they think about it. I love it.
At that point, when I knew I was going to win, chills just went up and down my entire body.
I don't believe there are any good or bad foods. Food is food.
I still feel so passionate about getting that record that I'm like, I'm just going to do it.
As an athlete, I was like, what's my story, or what's your story? What can you learn from it? And what can you teach people?
Welcome to the IronWomen podcast. I'm Alyssa Godesky here with my co-host, Haley Chura. And Haley, I can see, and I will be telling our listeners that it looks like you have some neon nail polish on, which can only mean race day nails might be intact, which can only mean it is race week, and you're getting ready to head to Vegas soon, right?
I am. I'm actually, I wish I was more packed, but I feel like we just had this conversation. Okay, these nails are actually from Chattanooga. Look at how good they did. They've been lasting. I'm like,
they look really good.
I'm
Are
getting
they
2 for 1.
Gel nails?
Yes, they were gel.
Okay.
Yeah, they were gel from a salon. I did not do it myself, but this has been a kind of a quick turnaround between Ironman Chattanooga and T100 Vegas. So it is technically just under 3 weeks between the two races, and I'm thankful that I didn't have to squeeze in another nail salon appointment in there, because everything else has, I feel like it's been a few minutes. But I'm also reminding myself that if you look at the start list for T100 Las Vegas, most of these women also raced 3 or 4 weeks ago, because a lot of them raced T100 Ibiza, which was the day before Ironman Chattanooga, and several of them had raced the Ironman World Championships in Nice, which was the weekend before that. So that was only 4 weeks ago. So this is an interesting time of year, I think, because we are, mostly have been racing a lot. I think some people build into their seasons and do better as they go on and, get fitter and get that race experience. And some people are fighting off injury or illness or fatigue or middle age. So we, it'll be interesting to see what happens. And this is an interesting year, I think, especially for the women in the pro triathlon ranks, with that Ironman World Championship happening in September. I mean, some of the athletes who race the Olympics in July. So you have these really big races, and then continuing these seasons through the T100 series, as well as the Ironman 70.3 World Championship, which is happening in December. So it's a very big year, a very long year. And it's interesting to see who is handling it okay. Hopefully me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you will be rising to the top here. And so tell us, when do you leave? Do we have any information on coverage? Should people just pay attention to social media and be finding that out as we go?
Yeah, I'm traveling on Tuesday, which is usually, I'm very lucky. There's a direct flight from Bozeman to Vegas, and that I think is the day that most of us, the men and women, are supposed to arrive in Vegas. And so these T100 races, they do usually ask us to be there several days in advance to do any media obligations. It also gives us a chance to see the course. And I have looked at some Strava files for this course, and race day, first of all, is Saturday, October 19th. And so the women start at 8:15 a.m. local time, which I think is Pacific time. I think last week I might've said the wrong time zone, but so Pacific time. And then again, I should have looked this up. The men are later in the day. Maybe I could I'm sure it's on my I had the athlete guide pulled up, but really just tune in for the women and then just keep watching for the men. It'll be right after. So you can, it'll be later in the afternoon. So I'm kind of glad we had the earlier morning slot. I think in Ibiza, it was opposite. The men started first and then the women raced later in the afternoon. So I think that just given Vegas weather and my sort of lack of heat prep, I did some heat prep ahead of Chattanooga. Then that race ended up not being hot. And it was kind of when you're doing these two races kind of close together, it is sort of like a fine line balancing act on like, do I go in the sauna? Like, I don't think going into sauna is great Ironman recovery. So I kind of have been, balancing these things, but it looks like the weather might break just in time in Vegas. So it's like a high of 80, which is much better than the high of like 110 they had last week. So I'll take it. But the course, it looks very hilly. And so it was advertised as like a 20% climb hill out of transition that we would do 5 times, and 4,000 feet of gain in just 50 miles. So I'm like, oh my goodness, please tell me they're exaggerating. And so I have seen some Strava files since of the course that I do believe it is 20%, but only for like less than a minute. So I mean, still doing that 5 times is gonna
that's a
burn your
lot.
legs.
Sure.
But it is a very short section that is 20%, and lower down is a much more reasonable, like 6%, but 6% hill is still pretty big. And then we do 5 laps of the bike. So I think there's about 3 hills per lap. And so it's still a lot of climbing. One of the files I saw, I mean, I think it's actually under 3,000 feet of climbing, which is still a lot. Like that is still a lot. We'll see. I mean, I always take kind of GPS files and elevation gain and loss with a grain of salt, but I'll take in my head 3,000 over 4,000. So I don't know. I'm like, also like maybe hills are better for me. I don't know. I honestly don't know like what to think. So except that I am trying to just embrace the opportunity. And then the run is on a golf course. So that's probably going to be like pitchy up down, I imagine, because that's how most golf courses are. If there's on grass, it's, maybe mixed surfaces. Sometimes I do think that suits me pretty well. And then the swim is in Lake Las Vegas, which we talked about last week, which they said, Alyssa, they said the temperature is 75 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like way better than I expected. I was expecting much warmer than that. So I'm very thankful for that because hot water is kind of my nemesis. And so anyway, I'm going into this like open-minded, optimistic, and I'm telling myself I'm like still a good runner and I'm still, I'm like still good at these things. Even doing an Ironman a few weeks ago, because when I have done this in the past, it was 10 years ago. I remember feeling really good on the swim and the bike. And then I got to the run and I was like, oh no, this like 3-week turnaround. But I feel like maybe now I'm a little older, wiser. My legs have gotten more miles in them and they'll feel a little bit better. So we'll just see. We'll see what happens. I don't know, but I'm in a situation with a lot of other women who also don't know. So it should be exciting.
And Haley, this is definitely a business trip for you, but I feel like people love to always ask, like, will you be staying? Will you have time to see any sights in Vegas or go to any shows? Or are you going to, do anything like that? Or are you flying right home and kind of, not spending extra time in Sin City?
Okay, so I am for sure staying. The race is on Saturday. My race is on Saturday. I'm for sure staying for Sunday, which is the age group race. And so I want to, I'm going to stay Saturday night, and I want to be able to cheer for some. I have one athlete racing, and then a few others that I know. There's actually some of our past guests, Carly Johan from she's from LA, but she's I guess retired professional triathlete, but now is racing age group at the T100 race. So that'll be fun to see her there.
Oh, that's gonna be really fun. Yeah.
And just some other athletes that I know from a woman from Bozeman, and there's just like, some fun friends and that I get to cheer for. And it is kind of nice. That's one of the things I do like about this, is that I race on one day and then get to cheer the next day. But there is a potential that I might do something fun Saturday night. So we have to stay tuned. I'm actually I'm nervous about this. I don't have any tickets to anything yet, but I'm in my YOLO ticket era. So it's not Taylor Swift because she's not in Vegas. But
is it Adele? Adele's in Vegas, isn't she?
I don't think she's there anymore. Didn't she just do something in Munich? It's not Adele.
Maybe. Okay.
It's
Garth
actually
Brooks. Remember when I went to Garth Brooks in Vegas?
Yeah, it's not, because
do you want me to keep naming shows in Vegas until you finally have to tell me?
Should I tell you?
No, don't tell me. I want to find out next week. Don't tell me.
Okay. Yeah. I'll wait, and we'll just see. Well, because it's also like, if I can't get tickets to one thing, there's like a fallback maybe, but it is definitely like, I had looked initially, I was like, oh, is there anything happening Sunday night? There's like nothing happens on Sunday night in Vegas. Like everything was happening Saturday night, but yeah, I'm looking for like last minute to something fun, which is also bizarre because I'm like, I never used to be like a show person or all this kind of thing, and then that has just evolved over the last couple of years. I'm like, now I just appreciate the artistry of it, and I don't know, it's just, and like the benefits to my mental health maybe. So yes, I will keep you posted on that. There might be something fun.
Okay, good. Well, I'm eagerly waiting, and I'm gonna start frantically Google searching what's going on in Vegas to try and guess, but I definitely don't want to know ahead of time. But I look forward to getting to try. I'm actually excited. I'm doing a class about gardening this Saturday, Haley. So I'm gonna miss the very start of your race, but I will catch the majority of it, and I'm gonna be rushing home from the gardening class to see what's going on, because I think it will be 11:15 here on the East Coast then when you start. And I love a good race with some coverage for me to watch. So I'm excited to watch you race. I think this will be it'll seem so short after doing Ironman again. So you can just, be cursing me and being like, Alyssa, does it really seem short?
I'm telling myself that too. Like, I mean, I do think that's honestly kind of an advantage that I've had in some of these T100 races, like having that Ironman experience, because the T100 races are so hard. Like, they are so hard, but I'm like, I can handle hard for, 10 plus hours sometimes. And so I know that I have survived those situations. And I remind myself of that, and I'm like, you can do this. Like, you can do this. Just see what happens. And sometimes things have gone better than I expected. And so, or like in hindsight, they end up being a little better than I thought they were when they were happening. So I try to remind myself that, and that, this is a moment in my life, and it actually won't always be this way, and to really appreciate that. So that's where I'm going. But again, it's easy for me to say that when I'm still sitting at home and things are going, fine right here. But I did want to, I know I mentioned Carly Johan, who was a former guest on our show and retired pro athlete, and then, her racing. And I had a couple other athletes that I thought we should catch up on, because I've forgotten to mention this in past weeks, but Jenny Hansen, who I talked to earlier this year about her own retirement, she did race in Nice and finished at, racing as an age grouper at the Ironman World Championships, which I think is so cool. And the other athlete in that same episode, Palmira Alvarez, she actually, like, we had talked about her reason to step away from the sport was to have a baby. And I think she just had her baby like 6 or 7 weeks ago. Yeah, a little boy named Drew, I think. So congratulations to Palmira. And I mean, it's just wild, because I talked to them in like, almost a year ago, and to kind of see how their lives have unfolded since then, it's neat to like keep in touch with them. I do have a sadder update on
wait, before we go into that update then. Okay. So I did run into Jenny in the grocery store, actually, in Nice, of all places. The city of a million people, and I'm just getting some groceries, and I ran into her husband Dave first, and then I was like, well, where's Jenny? He's like, she'll be coming around soon. Sure enough, she was. And so I did get to catch up with her briefly there, and I of course saw her out on the course and gave her some cheers. And she and Dave actually stayed. I think this is awesome. So they stayed in Europe, and I want to say they like traveled down the coast, if this geographically makes sense, to Italy and the next weekend. And Dave was racing a half Ironman there the following weekend. And of course, Jenny, in her infinite wisdom, was like, I may as well just sign up for that race too, because I think it was her birthday, maybe that day, or like one of the races maybe was her birthday day. And then she also was just like, I don't know if I'm just going to want to watch Dave race, so I should just sign up and get on her race. And she did end up racing there. So they made a fun trication out of the whole experience over in Nice. And then this part has nothing to do with Jenny, but I noticed a few weeks later that one of the UTMB races, UTMB Nice, I think there's more, Nice to Côte or something, where Courtney Dauwalter won the 100-mile distance there, starts like basically from where we were. It was just a few weeks later. I was like, man, that would be really smart to go hang out, watch the Women's World Championship, and then go run, because like UTMB has different distances, right? So there's all sorts of distances you could run that it doesn't. I looked at the course briefly, and you actually kind of run north and then up into the mountains in like that in the northwest direction. So I was curious if you'd be like kind of running up into the mountains that people were biking on for the World Championships, and it doesn't look like that's the case, but looks like a super sweet area. So again, just planting more seeds for people who have vacation time or flexible lives. There were actually several people who I met in Nice who had been over there for a little bit because they can work remotely, and they wanted to be there a little early to get to see the course and things like that. So a lot of kind of fun events there, and I think that can be a fun way to add into a trip like that if you're looking for 2026 and making the World Championships a target race like that. I think that UTMB race looked really cool. So I have to say that might be on my list now.
I love it. That's a, very, very cool way to, if you're a spectator or supporting someone, or if you want to do the double. I mean, Lucy Bartholomew, we forgot to mention her doing that UTMB, the one around actual Mont Blanc, and then racing Nice 3 weeks later. Incredible. 3 weeks,
she
like
looked
we
so
thought
good on the
last year.
run. I think she actually had that mentality of like, this is so short, right? Like this really is really hard. Like she was clearly running hard for herself, but like she was like, this is gonna be over like easy breezy before, that she couldn't have said that 3 weeks ago when she was running for like 26, 27 hours, I feel like, right? So
I know.
I think that mentality, I think
thought of
you are onto
that.
something with that.
I
Haley.
hadn't
You're
thought
turning
of
your inner
her,
Lucy.
as her as my like role model, because I'm like, that's a much more extreme double. And we were so impressed when she did it last year with UTMB and Kona with like 5 weeks, and then she does it. She's like, hold my electrolyte drink. I'm gonna do UTMB, finishing top 10 there, and then racing as an age grouper in Nice, and I think finishing on the podium in her age group, maybe like 5th. So very, very incredible job there. Another retirement announcement was Katie Zafiris, which I had talked to her a few months ago. And, in that interview, she had alluded to her thoughts of that. And I just think I know that's been like a interesting thread that has gone through some of our conversations this year. And, but there's just like, it's great to see people taking different approaches, I think, and showing that retirement sounds like such a ending, but it really isn't. It's more like, it's like when you graduate and they call it a commencement ceremony. And that one, I was like, why are they calling this? It's like, oh, because now you're beginning your next thing, which is hopefully bigger and better than, whatever you were doing ahead of that. But huge congratulations.
Fun if we had like a ceremony for retiring pro athletes like every year, right? It would be probably really inspirational to get to hear from all of them and to kind of gather people all together, right? That'd be kind of fun.
I actually think Alicia Kay had wanted to do something like that at Clash Daytona. And that was like one of her visions, was to like honor people if that race was in December. And unfortunately, it hasn't had a pro race in recent years, but I'm like, oh, that would have been very cool. So maybe they, if the like 70.3 Worlds were consistently in December, I feel like that would have been very cool. But maybe there's some other way to do it. There's another way to do it. And then again, that I was alluded to this, the sadder update that I had was I interviewed Jackie Yost, who was the 92-year-old triathlete who lived in Treasure Island, Florida, just off, right by St. Petersburg. And this was like last spring that I talked to her, and I had gone for a swim with her daughter Joy and the Mad Dogs ahead of that St. Anthony's triathlon. And I did reach out to Joy because of the hurricanes that have run through St. Petersburg, Helene and Milton over the last 2 weeks. And both Jackie and Joy, they lived right next to each other, and they both lost their homes. And so I know that Jackie's son also lived nearby, and I think her other daughter, all of her kids, they all kind of lived in this same compound area. And now they're all safe. They are all safe. They've evacuated at this time when I had to email with Joy. They evacuated and were staying separately. And I haven't necessarily gotten a lot of updates, but it will probably be a long road ahead, and I will keep us updated. If there's anything, I did ask if there's anything we can do to help, and they just have a lot going on right now. So if people have good thoughts for that, the Yost Edwards family, as well as I think just that whole St. Anthony's community, it is such a special race, and that they were hit really hard. So and I did get a chance to I'm really glad I got a chance to film a YouTube video while I was there. And Jackie's home was like a museum of triathlon memorabilia, because she and her husband had been in the sport for so long, and they had these articles from the 90s of St. Anthony's triathlon and McKeely Jones, who went on to be an Olympic silver medalist and world champion, winning the race there. And so I don't know the total status of that, but it's a really big loss.
Oh, that is really sad news, but thank you for that update. I think we can keep them all in our thoughts. And yeah, I think if you do hear of ways that the triathlon community can come to support them, keep us posted for sure.
I'll do that. And then another kind of cool thing, we are going to get more into this in our interview, but the regional championships for the NCAA Triathlon happened this past weekend. And last week's guest, Emma Myers, she competed in the West region for Colorado Mesa University. So congratulations to Emma, coming off that big interview and still racing. And we have another NCAA themed interview this week. So it's cool to see these regionals happening. This is athletes and teams qualifying for the national championship, which will be in November, and just really, really fast racing. So it's cool to see that coming together.
Yeah. Okay. But before we get into that interview, Haley, we do have a mailbag question. Oh,
can we have one? Okay. There's one other thing I forgot to bring up. The Chicago Marathon. Did you watch it?
Yeah. So no, because what was I doing? What was I doing yesterday? I feel like I forget what I was doing, but I tried to pull it up because it was early, like it was starting pretty early, but I don't know if I had the times, but I ended up watching local Chicago news, I think before the race was starting, and I didn't end up watching too much of the race, but I did obviously see the culmination of the women's race, and so exciting.
2:09:57.
I mean,
what in the world?
I love these kinds of things because it's
New
just
world
like
record.
you can see in her face too, as like the film, like she's running to the finish line, and it's like she knows she's just gonna, like, first of all, how close it is to get under 2:10, right? And to like break that barrier. But it's like, man, imagine like what that feels like to be running towards that, like just breaking that barrier. Like, oh, it's just so exciting. And I feel like you can see in her face in that last bit of the race that like how excited she was, probably also how nervous she was. It's like how hard she was trying to do that. I mean, totally bonkers.
26
really cool.
miles at 4:57 pace. 26.2 miles at 4:57 pace. I'm like I can't even fathom. Like her, looking at her 5K splits, they're like between like 15 minutes and like 15:40. And I'm
just
like,
wild.
Like the day before the marathon, Emma Coburn, another past guest, won like the local 5K in like 16:07 or something, which is a very solid time. And then Ruth is like, again, like, hold my electrolyte drink. So let me do like 26 miles faster than that. I'm like, what?
Crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, that's where I'm like, okay, my like paltry little like 6-minute pace. She'd be like, oh, you're so cute.
Yeah.
What's it like to run that slow? Even though it's like everything I have with every molecule of my being, but incredible. Almost 2 minutes off the world record, which was 2:11, which was already crazy. And 2:09. I'm like, 2:09. I would. I mean, what? I just can't even imagine. Like, it must be so nice to be done that quick too.
I know. Imagine being like, oh, hold on, I just have this quick marathon that's over before, like, all these movies I've been watching lately, right? Like, I mean, it's just like so crazy.
I mean, I did ride a little bit before my last marathon, but like I was really proud of my 2:57, and it's like she's like 50 minutes faster.
So crazy.
Like 2 minutes per mile faster than what I was running in Chattanooga. And that felt really fast.
Yeah.
I had some hills. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, incredible. I like watched that yesterday morning, and sometimes I think I said this before Chattanooga when I got to watch Nice ahead of time. I do love getting to watch other athletes, endurance athletes. It helps me feel that like sports matters, and it's cool to be kind of part of this community, even if I'm like an hour back on the road.
Well, I do think that's part of why we're seeing a lot of great things happening, is that people are seeing other things happen, right? You do get buoyed by like seeing great performances, right? And seeing that other people are going for it and putting themselves out there. And, for all of us, it's on a different level, whether that's running a sub-3 off the bike in your Ironman, whether that's running a sub-4 off the bike in your Ironman, right? Like, I think getting to see up close and personal people, women especially, right? Like doing really hard things and kind of crushing these barriers just helps. Like, that's what you're going to draw on when things get hard. That's what you can tell us about next week, about what moment in the lap of the run in Vegas did you think about
swim?
the 2J?
when I'm swimming and I'm like, okay, channel some Ruth speed here. What's the equivalent of the 209 marathon? No, I'm like in a T100, probably like, oh my gosh, I can't remember, like 3 hours. Like
Yeah.
crazy, but cool thing to witness. And but okay, going on, mailbag, back to the mailbag.
Yes. Okay. So mailbag. This is a great question coming in from Kinley this week. And Haley, you mentioned earlier that, 3 weeks between races, you were really glad that you didn't have to squeeze in a nail appointment in there, right? Because we have a lot going on with life, coaching, all of the things, trying to just keep yourself sorted, training, do all the things in between races. So there's a lot going on for triathletes, right? You're balancing all of these things. And so Kinley's question has to do with bikes and bike maintenance, right? And so we spend a lot of money on our bikes. They're very expensive. And with this in mind, they want to take the best care of their bikes as possible. So with our super nice tri bikes, how often are we washing them? What is our basic maintenance schedule? And Kinley's seen things on the internet about washing your bike weekly, but doesn't have the time for that. Also seen tips about changing cables every year, servicing bearings, right? So is this something that pros are doing with their bikes, or are they just like the rest of, the population and kind of just getting by? Kinley writes that they're very tired, peak Ironman training, time crunched college students. So I'm curious, Haley, after Chattanooga, did you wake up and wash your bike before you packed it? Did you wash it when you got home, right? Have you washed your bike in between? Have you done any servicing or maintenance in between your races?
No. Okay. A caveat here. Before the race in Chattanooga, I was able to go to the Quintana Roo factory because I am luckily sponsored by Quintana Roo, and I did a little autograph session there while people were getting some factory tours. And so I did have the mechanics there look at my bike and like check over a few things. And so, which was very, very nice, and they replaced some bar tape and just some of those minor maintenance things that do just like happen through the course of using your bike. And then I'd had, I got a new chain in July, like those kind of things. So, I mean, I guess I am doing some maintenance work. And then I actually packed my bike like right after the race, which was like crazy. But, my friend Shelly was just hanging out in the hotel room with me, keeping me company. And I was like, I got to do this before, like kind of sometimes you have to do it before you get sore. Like,
Yeah.
I have found that like sometimes it's better to do it like while you're still moving. And then because it's not going to be any easier the next morning, but so I did get that packed, but, I don't think I would say I have like a very like standard, washing schedule. I kind of just go off of like what it needs, how it looks. I did ride in the rain in Chattanooga, I probably did wipe it down a little bit. And then when I unpacked it here in Bozeman, that would be more when I would like rinse it off, and wash it. And then I usually do wash it like I need to today before I pack it again. So when you're traveling this much, like you do end up washing your bike a little bit more, also because I'm really embarrassed to like take it to a T100 mechanic, like really dirty. So I think there's like my shame motivates me a little bit.
Don't mind this dirt on it from the Chattanooga roadsides, right? Like
I know. It's like another thing. I usually wash my bike before I take it into the mechanic. I feel like it's probably like, people who have house cleaners and they like, you have to clean before the house cleaner comes. And so it's things like that. So it isn't like a standard thing. I'm really lucky that here in the summer when I'm outside the most, it's pretty nice weather. And so it's not usually getting a whole lot of dirt grime or, road grime on it. And, but if I ride in bad weather or, if it's really, if it gets really dirty, like that's probably when I'm going to most likely, do that. And then it's a lot of just like listening to it. So if you do notice something like creaking or, a knock or something like that, then I would usually, if I can't like immediately kind of figure that out, then it's like, okay, this is the time to take it in. I am someone who probably does do I will spend some money on bike maintenance, and it is really expensive sometimes, like getting new tires, getting a new chain, getting, new cassette, that kind of thing. And that's something I have learned. You should get the new chain and cassette at the same time, like those kind of things. And so sometimes it does take knowing a mechanic to kind of help you with that, like the timing on those things. But if you notice that your shifting is off, when you keep dropping your chain, sometimes that's a sign that you need a new chain and you need a new cassette. And so it's just kind of like you're on your bike enough that hopefully you notice those things. But I wouldn't say I have like a X number of miles or X number of hours or X number of months that I keep to a certain schedule, but with certain things, like you kind of know. I mean, batteries, you definitely know with like different, the batteries, if you have electronic shifting or if you have a power meter. And then I'm trying to think of other things like bar tape, that one, it's like unraveling. And but it does get expensive. And so I do see where it can feel tempting to try to make things last longer, but it is kind of a prevention sort of thing, does save you money long term.
Yeah, no, I think that's all good information. And I think
I feel like I just gave information. I didn't give any answers.
I know. Well, and I think the first thing for Kinley to realize is that, like, yes, it's a pain in the butt for most people, right? Pro or age grouper. And I think it just kind of comes down to, I think a lot of times what I've realized through coaching is that I think pros will, and this may or may not be an overgeneralization, but I think I often see, like, I think you would recognize something quite not feeling right? Like you would probably pick up on that much earlier than maybe some of my age group athletes would maybe just not be in tune with the bike to notice that like something's shifting not quite right? Like this shouldn't be sticking like that or that kind of thing. So I think that might have prompted me. I mean, I haven't ridden a bike outside in probably a year and a half, I feel like. So, nothing's getting dirty these days, which is actually a great solution to this problem. And, although I probably, and I haven't really ridden enough on the trainer probably to worry too much about my chain at this point. But, I had switched over to like a wax chain and waxing my chain, as part of that problem because I wasn't good about keeping it clean and lubing it and things like that. And that like helped me kind of cut a corner in a weird roundabout way, right? To do that because I felt like that saved me time. And then I would be the person who would just like hose things down and do a basic wipe down. But it's kind of like when you're thinking about maybe like your own health, right? And at least once a year, you should be probably getting some blood work done, going in to see, primary care, just kind of checking in, right? Same kind of concept with your bike. Even if everything seems fine, bring it into your shop at like a lull in your year and have them do a once over. And then at other times, try and do some of that maintenance. But it is kind of just a sticky side of the sport that no one likes to do because it gets expensive so fast. But the more you put it off, the more expensive it does get. So that's like the biggest thing to kind of keep in mind. But if you're, looking for the kind of heavy hitter things, basic wiping down, I think lubing chain, and like switching out your chain and your cassette once, the wear is getting there, I think is probably the top things I'd be paying attention to, to keep maintenance regular on. And then
tires,
tires. Yeah.
Because getting a flat is no fun. So you want to pay attention to the wear on those tires.
Yeah. But it's just kind of a part of the stuff. And I think that it, from what I've seen, it's for pros, it's like one of those things that it separates, pros who maybe aren't having to also work to support themselves, right? I think that it takes time. And so the pros that have a little bit more kind of cushion in their daytime to be doing that, it definitely helps. And it is an advantage because that stuff's stressful, to have to schedule in and figure out. But for the most part, I think it's a pain for everyone, age group or pro alike. Yeah.
And I also think like if you can have a kind of good relationship with your local bike shop, and sometimes even like I will make if you have a race, like even if it's like 2 months away, make an appointment for, a week or two before your race so that you can take it in there. And even if everything seems fine, get it checked over. Like I would suggest that because you never know, your brake pads might be like, oh, just a little, you just want to have those things good. And if you do it soon enough, or like 2 weeks before your race, then you're probably going to have enough time that if you did need to get something new, you would have time to get that and ride it a few times and make sure that's working. So that would be something I would really highly recommend. And then, just having a good relationship with your local bike shop so that hopefully you can, if something does happen, you can get them go in there. And I mean, some tips go a long way, tips and appreciation for, local bike mechanics, which again, I know it's just more money, but it is sometimes really worth it, especially if you're spending a lot of money on traveling to a race or race entry fees. It's, that no one wants their day to end with a mechanical if you can avoid it.
And you can always tip in brownies or beverages or something. If you get to know your mechanic and you know what they like, I think they just appreciate the fact that you could show that they're going out of your way, right? And like to try and that you're like being extra appreciative of the work that they're able to do if they're squeezing you in before a race or something like that. So it's kind of like everything with life, I guess, so that like being kind goes a long way, right?
It does. It is. But thank you for the question. And if anyone else has questions, our mailbag is ironwomenpodcast@gmail.com.
All right, Haley, I'm excited to hear more NCAA triathlon stuff this week.
Oh my gosh. Yes. So this week I chatted with Barbara Perkins, and Barbara is the head coach of the University of Denver women's triathlon team. She's also a very accomplished age group athlete. She's raced Kona several times and had a history as an NCAA swim coach, and then got this opportunity to be the very first and only head coach of the DU program. So she helped start this team from scratch in 2020, Alyssa. And she really tells me about what that's like starting a team from nothing, and then how she's really built an incredible program. It's since that inception in 2020, the team has finished no lower than 4th place at every national championship. They finished 3rd in 2022. And Myra Curro, who was the individual national title winner in 2023, was a DU pioneer. So lots of really, really cool things have happened. Barbara was also named the Collegiate Triathlon Coaches Association Division I Coach of the Year in 2022. So we're like 2 years into this brand new program, and she's Coach of the Year. So it's really, really cool that I got to chat with her and just hear about all of her leadership and the success that her program has had in such a short amount of time. I recorded this interview last week before the NCAA West Regional Championships that the DU team competed in Missouri. They finished 3rd behind Arizona State and Arizona, and they did clinch their spot in next month's national championships. So we'll be sure to watch them. October is also Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and Barbara shared her story of her own breast cancer diagnosis and treatment, and she does want to encourage all of us to take our breast health seriously. So we'll have my full conversation with Barbara Perkins right after the break.
Hi, Feisty fans. It's Alyssa Godesky here, and I just wanted to take a moment to tell you about one of my favorite training tools, the Lever Movement System. The Lever system fits on your home or gym treadmill and allows you to run at a reduced body weight so you can run pain-free through niggles, rehab from injuries, and increase your performance. The Lever system is super easy and quick to set up. I'm looking forward to getting the green light from my PT for running so I can be back on it. Using the lever will allow me to build my running back in a safe and gradual manner after not running for over a year. It's much more affordable and accessible than trying to track down other kinds of rehab treadmills as well. As a coach, I also highly recommend the system to my pre- and postpartum athletes, as well as those who struggle with niggles during peak training weeks. It's a no-brainer to have in your training arsenal. It's around $1,000 US and the award winner of the Best Run Product by Global Triathlon Awards. And don't forget, Lever also sells recovery boots. Check out all that Lever has to offer at levermovement.com and use the code Feisty20 for 20% off everything. Chasing Epic is the essence of the Orca brand. It is about seeking the moments in life that make us feel truly alive and connected with the beauty of the world around us.
And let's be real, chasing Epic is feisty.
Orca has been a longtime partner of Feisty, and we work with them year after year because we love their products and their commitment to creating amazing wetsuits made for women. They also supported me on Team USA last year at the One Water race, which was most definitely also chasing Epic.
With Orca's range of triathlon wetsuits, including Apex and Athlex, you can choose between flexibility, buoyancy, or a combination of both. There's a wetsuit for every triathlete and for all of your epic adventures.
And as a feisty listener, you can get 15% off with the code IronWomen15 at orca.com.
Hi, Barbara. Welcome to the IronWomen podcast.
Hi, Haley. How are you doing?
I am very excited to talk with you. This has been kind of a long time coming, I think, as a fan of NCAA triathlon. I really, really wanted to speak with you, and I'm excited today is the day.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so we are recording this right in the middle of your NCAA season. You and your Denver University team finished a very close second to TCU at the season opener super sprint, followed up by a 5th place team finish at the ultra competitive Battle in the Fort sprint race. How are you feeling about your team's performance so far?
Yeah, so I think we started off the season with a really strong season opener. We actually had 3 of our Canadians that weren't at the race. So it was really promising to be just 1 point away from TCU without 3 of, some of our top performers there. They competed in the Canadian National Championships the weekend after that, and they had a really great performance. So a lot of exciting things kind of coming into this season. Going to TCU this past weekend, we had a couple of things that kind of happened, previous to the race and during the race. So I don't feel like we had our full potential shown, but we're bouncing back from that, and we get to go into this weekend and race at the regional championships in Missouri. So we got to kind of bounce back, look at what happened and reevaluate and have a strong vision for where we're going into the second half of the season, into the championship season. So we're pretty excited. I think we have a lot of talent, a lot of depth on our team, and we haven't really shown all of that capability quite yet.
It is fascinating following NCAA triathlon as this new sport, because there is a lot for you to balance as a coach between the core NCAA races, the local age group triathlons, and then these individual elite races that your athletes, like the Canadians you mentioned, might want to race. So how do you manage that?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. It just starts even from January, the beginning of the year. We have to look at the whole entire year and build out the season. So we have a spring season. We have they have a summer season for a lot of them. They're competing on the, junior elite circuit, or they're competing as professional athletes. And then we bounce right back into the NCAA season, and there can be some overlap. I have those same 3 girls are going to be going to the World Championships the following week over in Spain. So we have to look at all those races, kind of put them on the schedule and say, okay, what are our priorities for the season? And that's going to be very individual. But we also have our NCAA season. So we have to all kind of perform, somewhat at the same time, for this regional championship this weekend, and then going into our national championship in November. So it's very interesting, and I don't know, some coaches do it a little bit differently, but ultimately when they're here on campus, they are here to compete for the NCAA season. But I want them to have great performances, at a very high level, and we've been able to do that for the past couple of years. So it keeps things interesting. It keeps me on my toes, and really, we have to be adaptable and change the plan sometimes when things don't quite go according to plan. But if we have that kind of outlay at the beginning of the year, we're all on the same page, and we kind of keep moving forward as, races pop up or come on the calendar, and then ultimately going into that national championship and trying to culminate the whole season together at that time.
Right. I have a past as an NCAA athlete, but as a swimmer, and all I had to really worry about balancing was the NCAA season and school, and that was enough. And so I admire you and the athletes these days who are also, like you mentioned, those junior elite or those pro races, that they're also figuring out how to balance that in. It's quite the act that you have put together and challenge for yourself. And the College Triathlon Coaches Association, they do release rankings now for teams and individual athletes, which get a little more interesting because of the balance that we just mentioned. And so your DU Pioneers were ranked 4th in the first poll of the season that was released before the Battle in the Fort race. How do you feel about these rankings?
I think it does give a little bit more, I feel like, notoriety to the sport. We are trying to make it more exciting, you know, have more press around the sport itself too. I think I'm on the board of directors. I'm the Division I representative. So I've been part of that process of kind of developing the ranking system. Kyle Joplin is our president, and he's really the brains behind that. But I think there's no like perfect system, but I think it does give us some indication of like where, you know, people are going to end up, and it gives you individual rankings, and it also gives you team rankings, and you can kind of I guess play the game a little bit of like which races you're going to go to, how strong the competition is, so that kind of affects your rankings as an individual and as a team.
I imagine they'll get better as the years go on, but I think they are fun just because, you know, when you're in collegiate sports, you love those like rivalries sometimes, right? And having those rankings, and it does make it exciting for the general public because it's a little easier to understand. So I think it is fun. You've coached the DU Women's Triathlon program since its inception in the summer of 2020. You really started this program from scratch. Can you tell me a little bit about that process?
Yeah, it was a very interesting start. I was already coaching swimming here at University of Denver. The pandemic hits. We're in June, and like they had this USA Triathlon is giving out grants for, you know, the first 40 schools to add women's triathlon. So we applied for that grant and we got it. And so they knew that I had a triathlon background. I actually started another women's swim team at the Division III level back in New Jersey. And so it was kind of like this perfect storm. They're like, you're here, you have experience in this, and we would like love to have you start this program. But we started July 2020 and they wanted a team in August 2020.
Oh, wow.
So it was a quick turnaround. And I mostly recruited from the student body. So I reached out to all the club teams on campus. And that's where I got the 4 original girls that started the team with me. And it's been a long journey. Like, I don't think that, you know, in any situation, like starting a program is really hard. I don't think like people understand like when you start a culture from zero, like you have to like establish so many things. You have to buy all like the bikes and trainers, and you have to find space, and you have to get practice times, and you have to build a travel schedule. So there's just like so many outside factors that you don't really think about until you're like in it, and things are going to come up and you have to kind of adapt and roll with them. Just like in a triathlon, you know, something bad happens, you have to keep moving forward, and you can't know what those challenges are going to be, but you have to just kind of keep moving through them. And really, like in the last year, I feel like we have gotten to a place where we have a really strong culture. They're really tight together. They really care about each other. They make dinner together. They go to the farmer's market on the weekends. So just seeing the growth and the closeness, you know, even not related to the performance, like it's been, you know, a labor of love, and it's been really hard, but it's been really rewarding too.
Have you been able to kind of take a step back and look at what you have built over the last 4+ years and really pat yourself on the back?
Uh-huh. When I was in the middle of it, I don't think I realized, I didn't appreciate like how much we had accomplished. Like we got 4th our first year at nationals, and then we got 3rd the next year, and that was the highest ever performance of a women's team at University of Denver. And then, you know, getting Myra to win a national championship last year. It wasn't until last year at nationals that I really appreciated, and I know we're going to talk about it, but I was diagnosed with cancer last year. I was like undergoing treatment like during the season. My last chemo treatment was the week after nationals, and the girls, they had little pink ribbons that they tattooed on like their hips, and so like it was that moment that I was like, wow, like I built this, and like this has come so far, and these are actually like really strong, cool, incredible women.
What a cool story. What a cool opportunity, and what an incredible thing that you have built in only a few years. you mentioned coming from NCAA swimming, and you did have extensive personal experience racing triathlon. But aside from the obvious addition of two other sports and a lot of gear, and the fact that one sport, swimming, has been around for quite a long time and triathlon is very new, are there any surprising differences you've noticed between NCAA swimming and NCAA triathlon?
I think the biggest thing is we're just still building, and like in being on that board of directors, we get to kind of be at the ground floor level of building the sport. And so we're trying to create systems and, you know, the qualification for nationals, the ranking system, and we're trying to make this like look like a sport. But there's no handbook that says, hey, this is what, you know, college triathlon is supposed to look like. So we kind of look at other sports, we model it a little bit after them, and we also look at like World Triathlon, what they're doing. And it's very interesting because there's no guidebook for this. So we're kind of making it up as we go along, and it's come a long way. And I think with NCAA swimming or other sports, they have a lot of programs. They have like meets that they go to everywhere, every season. So they have the setup system, but we don't have that quite clear system yet. And so creating races, what our format looks like, being inclusive, we have aquathons. We're talking about adding like swim triathlons. So like you swim in a pool and then you go and bike and run, so that we can have more races on campuses, that we can get more people involved. So it's very interesting. I don't know how else to explain it. I kind of call it the wild, wild west sometimes because we're just out here doing our thing and making it up. But it's becoming a really great, system. And I love that there's more women that are getting this opportunity to do college sports and have this opportunity.
It's a fitting name given the pioneers that are your mascot. But do you consider yourself a creative person? Because it does sound like this is really tapping into your creativity and your problem solving skills, creating something basically brand new.
Yeah, I would have said before this that I was very like maybe analytical thinker, and like I was like very like focused, and I couldn't really like think outside the box, but I've become very good at being adaptable and figuring things out. Like even, in our workouts, we'll show up and like I'm like, okay, we're going to do this today, but like there could be a weather. There could, like we did one of our first bike rides. We went up to Boulder to do a ride this season, and there was a triathlon happening. There was a fundraiser like ride with all these people, and so we had to change our course of like what we were doing the workout on because there was just like literally thousands of people out on the roads of Boulder. So even you might have an idea, you might show up and it could be completely different from what you expect it to be. So I've also talked to the team about being super adaptable, you might have expectations going into a workout or a race, but what I kind of said before, like things happen, like you drop your water bottle, you get a flat tire, we had a crash last weekend. So like things are going to happen. It's how you choose to react to them and kind of keep rolling with it that like defines you, I feel like, as an athlete and makes you a better person and better athlete. So I have really stepped up my creative flow, I guess, through this experience and gotten a lot better at, just rolling with it and making the most out of the situation.
And I believe you also hosted DU's first ever triathlon type race on campus. So did you have previous race directing experience, or is that another thing you were just learning as you went?
Yeah, that was another thing that I just made up, and it's kind of become a model for other programs, which is cool. So we did a local race. It's called Oktoberfest here in Colorado. So the teams did that on Saturday, and then on Sunday, the teams came down and we did the aquathon on campus. It was inspired by a workout that we did here. So we do a 200 swim. You get out of the pool. The first time we did it, I made them run up the stadium stairs and then run around the soccer and lacrosse fields. And it's just about a 1,000 meter run or 0.62 mile run. And the first time we did it 4 times, and the girls were like, this is so hard. So that inspired this race. I made kind of like an athlete guide going into the weekend, but like the day of the race, just like things kept happening and people were coming up to me and they're like, where do you want like transition? where do you want the signs? Where do you want this? Where do you want that? And so it was interesting because I had never, put on that race director hat before. So then last year we did it as an eliminator. So we had 3 rounds. So everybody competed the first round. Then the second round was the top 16. The last round was the top 8. And then this year we did it as a fundraiser. So it's gotten a little bit easier. We've changed it a little bit every year, but it's just a really fun way. And like people from the community, from the school come and watch it. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. Like people still don't know we have a triathlon team. So it's just a great way to get people here and like show them a little bit about what our team is doing.
And it does show how you can host an event like that on a pretty urban campus. It's been a long time since I was at DU, but I did have swim in your pool.
Cool.
It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. Yeah. That's how I remember it. But it is an urban campus where it would seem pretty hard to host a multi-sport event, and yet you do.
Yeah. So that's one of the things is like the board of directors, the College Triathlon Coaches Association. We want there to be events on campus. So they might not look like your typical swim, bike, run, but there's still ways to do like multi-sport events on campus and get your athletes and your community to surround that. So yeah, that's one of the goals.
I love the idea of like the DU student body out cheering for all these women running loops around the stadium and just, I mean, how cool that would look. That would just look really cool. And that's the fun of NCAA sports really, and collegiate sports, is that camaraderie. So hopefully it continues to grow. You mentioned recruiting earlier and how initially you had to recruit from within the student body because you had 1 month to create a team, which is incredible. Can you talk about the typical recruiting process now for a student athlete who might be interested in joining the triathlon program at DU?
Yeah, so I think there is a small kind of like club circuit of triathlon teams out there. So I have tried, to build relationships with those teams. I think another thing is that there's just like small pockets of like triathletes here and there. And I don't know, the recruiting process can be like a little bit like of an unknown. So for triathlon, when you reach June 15th between your sophomore and your junior year, so if you're a rising junior, you can start talking to Division I coaches. I think it's a little bit different at the different divisions, but for Division I, June 15th, going into your junior year, you can start talking to coaches. I think a lot of the way to contact or reach out to coaches would be to go to their school websites, their like triathlon specific pages, and reach out to the coach. Sometimes we have a questionnaire on our page. So if they fill out a questionnaire, I get a notification on that. Another interesting way that I've done recruiting is through Instagram. Like, I feel like that's kind of interesting, but I have had people reach out. So if you add the Denver Women's Triathlon page, or you can go to my like personal bperky08 Instagram and reach out, like that's a way that I've connected with people. So those are kind of the main ways I would say. And then like we go out to races. I go to the junior elite nationals every year. I go to typically to age group nationals, some of the other junior races. So reach out, ask if, one of the coaches will be there. I think also coaches have like time standards that they're looking for and expectations. I think there's a little bit, depending what level you want to go at, there's room for anybody who wants to get into college triathlon. There is a place for you. So I think that's another, exciting thing. Even if you've never done a triathlon before, if you've never been on a bike before, like you can become a triathlete. So I think that's a really cool piece. So maybe even if you reach out to me and it's not a good fit for me, like I could send you to another team that might be a little bit better as well. So again, making it up a little bit as we go along. We are trying to create a database that has like the coach's contact information, the athlete's contact information. So we're still in the process of making that, but those are kind of like the top ways I would say to just don't be afraid to reach out. And, just like anything else, if people say no, maybe that just isn't the right fit for you. Like go, there's now 42 schools out there. And I know for a fact that people need more people on their team. So there is a home for you if you would like to become a triathlete, even if you've never done a triathlon before.
It is my understanding that starting the 2025-26 school year, the NCAA is changing its roster and scholarship limits across all NCAA sports. And so from what I can tell, as it relates to women's triathlon, the previous limit of 6.5 scholarships will be raised to 14 roster positions. Am I understanding this correctly? And can you explain how the rule change might impact your team?
Yeah, I think that it's still kind of a rumor right now. Like they are saying that they are going to put like roster limits, and there's going to be like unlimited scholarships. So if they move forward with that, they would have, they are saying that there's different, I guess, roster limits for different sports. So it's not completely 100%, like it has not been voted on by the NCAA yet. They kind of tabled that discussion. I think that they want to work through it a little bit more. I would say our university, we're trying to be very proactive about some of these decisions that are being made by the NCAA. We're kind of fortunate in the fact that we're a mid-major school. We don't have football, so we're not like completely tied to like football and what they're doing and like attached to how much money they make. We're a smaller athletic department, and we have a very supportive athletic director who wants the support across every sport on campus to be equal. So that's been great. Our chancellor is also a triathlete, so he's basically like the president of the university. So he's done Ironmans. He came to our aquathon. So having the support of the athletic director, having the support of the chancellor are very positive signs. Triathlon is a great fit for the university. Like Colorado is a huge triathlon hub. So I think we're, protected by that right now, but there are, changes to the NCAA that haven't fully been decided yet, that we're still kind of waiting to see what happens.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, because I have just seen a lot of chatter online and I have wondered how it would impact, but it sounds like one, not totally for sure happening, and another, figure it out as you go kind of thing. But I'm so glad to hear that you feel very supported on campus. I am curious, we talked about, athletes reaching out to you for recruiting, but from your side, has the recruiting experience changed? It sounds like it definitely has, since, both the DU team and the NCAA Triathlon have become more established in your 5-year coaching tenure. I imagine you are able to recruit, and you're getting, we talked about the Canadians. They obviously probably weren't part of the DU student body before you reached out to or before you connected with them. So how has it changed? Is it any easier?
Sorry, drinking my coffee. I need a little more caffeine. So I think it has changed. The first couple years, I feel like I had to throw like a wider net out there and get some, I would say, more like developmental athletes or people that didn't have as much experience with triathlon. I think we're starting to establish ourselves a little bit more as a program. We've been really consistently top 4 every year at nationals the past few years. We do have a bit of a Canadian pipeline that it started with Clara Normand, who's a senior this year. She ended up transferring from another school, and she really opened up the door for us for, international student athletes. So I've learned more, I guess, about myself as a coach and like what the kind of athletes that I am looking for. I really want people that are really, I guess, motivated, not just like for triathlon, but for school. Like I want you to have the best of both worlds when you come to University of Denver. So I really want you to have opportunities on the academic side as much as the athletic side. I want you to be able to come in, do NCAA triathlon at the college level and still want to do it after you're done here. Because I think, from other sports, sometimes you go and do college sports and then you get burnt out and you never want to do it. So I want you to like continue to grow and love the sport. I feel like don't push people to that edge that maybe other places do. So I want you to be able to be healthy, to have continued growth and get a little bit better every year. So it might be a little bit more conservative or like longer term goals than other places, but I want you to have that individual growth as a person, a student athlete, a leader, and be like involved in the triathlon community after you graduate. So I think that's kind of helped, figure out a smaller pool of people that are interested in that. And I think that the girls on my team, the relationships that they have with other student athletes, other people in the junior elite circuit, they'll say, hey, like, I think this would be a great fit for you. So I think, yeah, it's definitely different, but I always say I'm not looking for a certain amount of girls on the team. Like, I want it to be a great fit for us and for you, because we have a smaller team. We only have like about 10 girls on the team. So each person's going to make a big impact when you come in and you're part of this community. So I want to make sure that it's a really good fit before adding someone onto our roster.
And we touched on the on-campus vibe, and it does sound like administratively you are very supported, but I am curious about on campus, and this is, for you and I'm asking you to speak for your athletes, of course, which is difficult, but you have had these incredible results. As you mentioned, you've been top 4 at every national championship. Last year, Myra Carreau won the individual race. And have you seen anything change on campus? I mean, are you getting more student athletes getting recognized around campus, or just like the recognition internally from their peers? Are they coming out and cheering more for that on-campus aquathon? I mean, are you noticing any of that?
Yeah, definitely. I think even the first year when we did the aquathon, we had a ton of people in the athletic department come, and other like teams from the school came and watched us, and they're like, oh my God, this is really cool. Like, I wish, like, we get people from the community that are like, I wish, women's triathlon had been a sport when I was in school. And, we're starting to get like younger fans that are like, oh my God, I want to be on your team, in like 10 years. And I think
the coolest. That has to be the coolest.
That actually like is one of my favorite things about this. So I feel like we have also gotten more involved in the community. We go to, there's a all women's race called Outdoor Divas that we volunteer at every year. This year we volunteered at a kids triathlon. And so just making those connections is like the like absolute coolest thing that I think is part of being this, the head coach of this program. So I mentioned that it was a fundraiser this year. So some of our girls formed relays with the swim team and the hockey team. And so, yeah, there's more connection, within our athletic department. And then I have a girl, her name's Avery Faulkner, on our team, and she's the SAC president, so the Student Athlete Advisory Council. She's the president, and she's also spreading the word. Like, she's getting invited to some opportunities to speak to fundraisers and alumni. So we are getting more support. And I mentioned our athletic director, like, we got team bikes last year. We got a spin studio this year. So they are investing in our program, and they like really can see the vision of like how we're growing and progressing.
Yeah. And how does sponsorship work? Because it sounds like now it's the university who is buying the bikes. Cause I have wondered about that. Like, are athletes coming with their own bikes? Cause that is a big piece of equipment and kind of specific to each athlete. So can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, that's been like a process. Again, building relationships with people in the community. So we are now partners with, it's called Mike's Bikes, and they have been wonderful to us. They helped us get the Cannondales for the team. So Cannondale is kind of reinvesting in women's sports, and they want like high level women's sports riding on their bikes. So they were able to help us with that. We get approached, by swim sponsors, by helmet sponsors, all kinds of things. I have to go through our financial department and like NCAA compliance and our legal department. So it's not just like a straight, like, yes, we'll take everything that we can get. We have to make sure that it's like a good fit for our university and for our team before we can kind of progress forward. And so that's another, like, one of my hats that I wear. I feel like I am the jack of all trades, master of none with this job sometimes.
Master of all. I feel like you might be mastering all of it.
Maybe that.
You're like an agent, you're a coach,
Yes.
Wow. What about NIL deals? Because I know that has kind of, it seems it's definitely emerging for collegiate athletes. And it does seem like there are some, name, image, likeness opportunities for athletes, even in niche sports like triathlon. Do any of your athletes have or want NIL deals?
Yeah, so before there was a little bit of a separation, like as coaches, we were not allowed to even like broker deals or have conversations with sponsors. So now if a sponsor approaches us, I can say, hey, like you might want to reach out to these girls on my team, and I can actually like give them information about that. I do, like you said, it's a niche sport, but I think there are opportunities, and there are, girls on my team, on some of the other teams that are kind of getting into that realm. Our university is investing in that as well. And like, they're going to have a full-time person that's in charge of like getting, NIL deals. There's also, schools are now making like alumni networks, that they can kind of like choose to sponsor a team or an individual. So that's another thing that's kind of evolving and changing pretty quickly, with the NCAA landscape.
And what about the media coverage and specifically social media? How does that impact your day to day? Are you having photo shoot days and certain workouts and trying
Yeah,
to boost your profile there?
yeah. We do have a media day every year, and the girls really get into that. We use the pictures kind of throughout the year, and then we had a photographer like come to our race at TCU, take pictures of us. We made like reels for that. We do have a sports information director here on campus that we work with. His name's Ron. He's great, very supportive. I also do some of the social media stuff behind the scenes.
Of course you do. Of
Yeah,
course you do.
right, because that's what you do, and I don't have to do that, but I feel like it shows like our personality, our culture, and like I've had parents of the athletes on the team like reach out to me, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Like I don't hear that much about like what my girl is doing, but I get to kind of see like what they're doing through the Instagram. I think it's also been a great highlight for recruiting. Like I have had so many recruits reach out, and they say like they feel like they know our team and like what our vibe is because of our Instagram, and our social media. So I think it is a tool for recruiting and to show like, yeah, what we're potentially like, giving to the triathlon community in the future. Yeah.
So I believe women's triathlon is still considered an emerging sport by the NCAA. And there are, you mentioned 42 teams. Excellent. We hit that milestone, but there are still a few milestones it needs to pass before being considered a fully fledged NCAA championship sport. Can you give us an update on where triathlon is in that process?
Yes, so we are hopefully, knock on wood, starting the process this year. So first step, we're actually a little bit ahead of the game since we have a national championship. The NCAA like Emerging Sports Committee is going to come to our national championship and observe our race. They've already started like reaching out to schools. There's like certain criteria and thresholds that we have to meet. So you have to have a minimum of 3 athletes finish 4 races in the NCAA season to meet sports sponsorship. So they're reaching out to every coach and like an administrator at the schools to make sure that we're on track for that. It's going to be a 2 to 3 year process. So even though they're coming to watch our nationals this year, it's not like guaranteed that it's going to happen. They have told us some of the criteria that they will be looking for throughout that process. And there's also things that they won't tell us because they don't want us to like adapt and change and like just give it to them. So they want to make sure that it is a model that is that can, be, I guess, productive and successful in the future. So that's kind of like some of the things that they're looking for.
Secret criteria. Are there ways the greater triathlon community can help support teams like yours?
Yeah. I guess just reaching out to coaches, or, the fundraising department. I think as the NCAA landscape is changing, people are going to need more support, from their communities. But I think each team needs different, things, and different support. But I love, when people came to the aquathon, coming to the races, and I would love to have more support from, like, in any way. Like I had somebody like donate a bike to our program. Like there are tons of different ways to get involved and support NCAA triathlon as a sport. But I think, yeah, just seeing if you have a local team, or even just trying to get more people involved in triathlon, like grab somebody and say, hey, like, you want to try a triathlon? I think that's a great way to give back and get more people involved.
And you touched on this earlier, but October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And you have posted about your own experience with breast cancer and treatment over the past year. How are you doing right now?
I am good. So I was diagnosed May 10th in 2023. I had kind of a atypical type of breast cancer that was a little bit more like not as common. So the treatment was really aggressive. And I finished February 28th of 2024. So it's been just about 6 months. I had my 6-month checkup last week, and everything's all clear and all good. So just kind of, yeah, taking care of myself right now. It's, even though I like finished treatment, I still am kind of recovering. The radiation was actually what was the hardest for me. So I'm still not, like, I would say, like fully back to me and my strength, but I'm definitely like feeling better every day. And yeah, it's weird because I, like, the further away I get from it, I'm like, okay, I'm good. And then, like, kind of go, like, when I went back for my checkup, it was like, wow, like that just happened. Like it hasn't really been that long. But I think being a triathlete, having like been through like hard, rigorous training plans and hard races like Ironmans, like it really prepared me to how to get through the treatment and have a really great attitude about it and just kind of keep moving forward.
I mean, we like using skills from triathlon for other things in life, but that's not how I would wish it for anyone. From the awareness standpoint, though, what message would you like to get out? Because I don't know if you're even 40. I mean, you seem very, I'm sorry. I'm terrible at guessing people's ages, but,
Yeah.
but I mean, this is something that all of us should probably be aware of.
Yeah, I guess a couple things. So they don't recommend you getting a mammogram until you turn 40. So I was 34 when I was diagnosed, so I was on the young side. Another thing I didn't really know about, if you have a history of breast cancer in your family, you can get tested. It's called the BRCA gene. So those are the most common types of breast cancer, but I got tested for like 100 different types of cancer and genes after I was diagnosed. It turns out that, like, my cancer was not genetic, so it was environmental. So I think if you have a history, you can get tested for that BRCA gene. Even if you do like the 23andMe or something like that, they have those genetic markers that you can get tested for. And that means that you're just at a higher risk of developing breast cancer. The way that I found it, I was in the shower shaving my armpit, and I just found a lump. And I got into the doctor the next day. We got a mammogram, and it was like, it all happened very quickly. So even though we're like super healthy, we're active, we're triathletes, like I was training for Boston Marathon. I was training for Chattanooga 70.3 last year. It was like the fastest I had ever been. And then I get, cancer. So I think not taking your health for granted. Like if something is wrong, don't be afraid to ask questions. I think that was another thing, like advocating for myself and like knowing myself. It's not easy to just like stand up to doctors because you're like, doctors know everything, but you know yourself better than anybody. So you have to be your own best like champion, or you have to find like people that will help support you on that journey. I would also say that, like, I am a resource for anybody who ever goes through this. If anybody ever like has questions or has somebody that, has gone through this, like I would love, to share my experience. I'm not going to like post all over the internet about like everything that I went through, but I I would love to be a resource for anybody who ever experiences this. And I hope nobody ever has to go through it, but it is part of, life. And it's also just helped me, I guess, figure out what I value, what I'm passionate about, what I love. And it's really changed my world, but for the better. And so, yeah, if I can be a resource, that's like kind of the number one thing for me.
Well, we are so glad that your 6-month checkup went well, and we hope it continues to go well into the future. And I know that NCAA coaching is a full-time plus job. You have already listed out your like 7 jobs that come along with it, and your recent very full plate of life going through cancer treatment. But are you still able to do any training or racing, or do you have any plans for the near future? Because you're an incredible athlete as well. I mean, where are you in that spectrum of life right now?
Yeah, it's been kind of a weird journey. Like when I first got diagnosed, I was like, I'm going to train through treatment. I'm going to like come back as fast as possible. And it has not been a linear journey. Like I have, kind of started and stopped and started and stopped. But I think that one of the things is like, I never really took a break after or during treatment. Like I pushed through, I worked full time. I did not take any time off. I continued to train through treatment. So it's finally like just caught up now in the last like month or two, like what I actually just went through. So I'm just trying to process that a little bit. And I will always like be involved in triathlon. I think my heart is in it. I don't know to what level. One of my goals is I've qualified for Kona twice in the past, and I would love to qualify again, not for me, but just like to celebrate life again and just like prove it to other people that like even if you go through something like cancer, you can still come back from that. So I have plans to try to qualify next year for the 2025 Ironman World Championship, but I'm not gonna put that pressure on myself if I don't feel ready for it, or if my kind of direction has changed. But I will still compete and be a part of triathlon. Like I don't think that's ever going to change.
Have you been either as an athlete or to watch it since it's been mostly women or all women's racing?
No, yeah. So I'm excited to see kind of that opportunity as well. And being part of that Outdoor Divas, like the all women's triathlon, like being part of women's triathlon at the NCAA level, like that is one of my like life passions, is like women in sports. So I mean, I was on the 50 women to Kona, like, train with you and a lot of other women. So it's just really great to finally see that opportunity come to all those women that have worked so hard and deserve that equal day to celebrate everything. Yeah.
We are going to be cheering for you to, get your Kona experience as we cheer for the DU Pioneers. The Women's Collegiate Triathlon Championship is scheduled for Saturday, November 9th in Claremont, Florida. So the championships have been in Tempe, Arizona for about as long as I can remember. How do you feel about this venue change, and does it impact your team at all going into this race in Claremont?
I'm actually really excited about it. Like I think Arizona State, Cliff, they do a wonderful job of hosting it. It is a great venue for a national championship. It has that national championship feel, but I have high goals for the team. We have high goals for ourselves. We want to take a run at that title. And I think going to Claremont like neutralizes a little bit of that like home court advantage. Arizona State has been the 7-time back-to-back, national champions. So I think that it's really going to change things up being in Claremont this year. Our team competes there every spring, and this last spring we did really well as a team. So I think it's a great course for us. It opens up a lot of opportunities. And I think that, like there will be a lot of people at the top level competing for the top spots. And it's going to be a really exciting race. So I'm very excited for this year. And I think we have a good shot of doing something very impactful.
I'm excited to watch. I'm excited for your team this weekend at regionals and heading toward that race in Claremont. And I hope that our paths get to cross maybe, either I got to get out and cheer. I could be one of those people cheering on one of these NCAA triathlon races. I need to do that myself, or at a race sometime in the not too distant future. Barbara, it's been so great catching up with you.
Thank you so much, Haley.
Thank you to Barbara for coming on the show. And I'll definitely be cheering for those DU Pioneers headed into this national championship. And Alyssa, in case you were wondering, the East region, they did also have a regional championship this past weekend. So DU was in the West region in Missouri. The East region, I think it was in Raleigh. And so the winners there was Queens. Is it Queens College or Queens University?
Queens
Queens University of Charlotte. There it is.
Okay.
Queens
Yes.
University of Charlotte. Yeah. They won. TCU, Texas Christian University, was second, and ETSU, I think that's Eastern Tennessee State University. That was the Division I results. So it'll be very exciting to see who all gets invited to that national championship happening in Claremont. And, good best of luck to everyone prepping for that over the next less than a month. So lots of exciting racing happening.
Definitely, including this weekend in Las Vegas, where everyone can be watching the live stream on the T100 YouTube to watch our own Haley Chura crushing it at T100 Las Vegas. Haley, I'm super excited for you. I wish you safe travels and fun. Yeah, as you head out to Vegas, get in this race. It'll be over before you know it. And
that's not a good mindset to be going. I gotta appreciate every painful moment. I do appreciate this opportunity. I think I said last week I wasn't expecting to get a wild card invitation. I haven't expected any of these, and I just have to take a step back and remind myself that it's pretty cool to be, this fit and healthy and able to go race with these women. So very, very thankful for the opportunity, and I will try my best to really appreciate every minute of it.
I can't wait to hear about it next week, Haley. I'll talk to you later.
Bye, Alyssa. You've been listening to the IronWomen podcast hosted by Haley Chura and Alyssa Godesky.
IronWomen is a production of Feisty Media and is edited by Lydia Russell and produced by Ella Natition.
Head to livefeisty.com to find more podcasts, stories, and fresh perspectives.
Thanks for listening.